I am here this week with another edition of Ask Rad Ideas, where each week I am taking some questions that I've received from viewers, from people following my email list, and questions specifically about church communications and some of the challenges that people are struggling with, and trying to give you some practical advice on ways that you can solve those challenges. And I've got a couple questions today that I would love to help you with. So I'm going to start with one. This question came in. It says, how can a small church with limited resources reach the largest number of people to let them know we exist? We are renting a space, so we don't have our own building, and we need to let people know where we are and encourage them to come and hear our pastor. There's a couple of things I would suggest to you. The first one is I would start with email. Now, email may seem crazy because it's not necessarily immediately going to people outside of your church body, but it's part of your strategy for getting the word out. So I would start with email. I'd begin by collecting the addresses of your church and community members. And the best way to do that is going to be through your church website. You can use a service like MailChimp, who has a free version available, and ask people to sign up for like a weekly newsletter, info about events, something like that, something that's going to be compelling for them to give you an email address for. And then you need to begin to send out what I call high value emails on a regular basis. Now, what do I mean by high value? It needs to be more than just an events calendar. People don't just want details. People want something that's engaging and interesting and shows and speaks about why your organization is important. So you need to make sure that you're sending something interesting and compelling and add value to the reader. One of the guys that I'm connected with says that he always asks this question, am I adding value to them? Is this just adding noise to their life? So think about that as you're writing content, but start to write emails. Use stories and testimonies, portions of the pastor's message maybe, things that are just compelling and people are going to be interested in. And when you make it engaging, people will want to read it. And so if you've got this email list going, then a great way to use some of the same content is social media. And if you aren't already using social media, you need to begin to engage your church and your community through this resource, because it's the best way to get your word out there that's super inexpensive. So I would suggest that you start with Facebook. I saw some statistics recently that said that more than 70% of all adults are on Facebook. So that's a huge statistic, and for the number of people who are deciding not to do it, the reality is the majority of people are, and it's a great way to connect with them. But you want to make sure when you're using social media, the idea of social media is that it's social. It is not a event forum. Okay, it is not just tell people what's coming next. You want to engage with people. You want to tell them about the fun things going on at your church. You want to show and talk about people in your church. You might even support events that are going on in your community, things that show, hey, we have a heart for these issues in our community. We're partnering with some organizations. You might want to know about them. You want to tell stories through your Facebook. And why I really encourage that you start with email is that oftentimes you'll be able to tie the two together. You can start to tell a story in email, and then you can say, hey, on your social media, you can say, hey, we told a longer version of this story in a recent email. Maybe you want to be on our email list and get more information, or find it at our website. So if you can create content one time, and then you can share it across multiple platforms, email and social, and it's a way that you can save time even though you're actually showing the information or putting it out there in a couple different ways. And as your following grows and people are engaging with your content, okay, you're getting comments in your feed, you're finding people saying, hey, maybe on Sunday they're saying, hey, we've been following your social media, have seen some good things. It's really cool to be watching. Something for you to consider is using promoted ads through your social media channel. And the thing is, Facebook's reach for organizations has dropped significantly. And here's kind of the thing, is that at any given time, a person could have as many as 1,500 different items show up in their feed on Facebook. Okay, and Facebook knows no one's going to ever go through that many posts. You're maybe, if you sit and scroll for a while, going to get through 200 or 300. So Facebook has this way that they look at how you interact and who you interact with, and they determine, okay, we think these are the best posts to show you right now. So they cut that 1,500 posts down to the top few. Well, the challenge there for an organization, especially like a church, is that very quickly, if you have, say, 100 people who have liked your page, well, Facebook starts sorting things, and all of a sudden your posts are only being seen by 5, 10 people. And that, unless they're super engaging and people are responding and clicking and commenting and sharing it with their friends, then all of a sudden the number of people who see your posts goes up significantly. So one way of helping to boost that number is to use promoted posts. And there's a couple ways you can do it. One is to use what's called the boost post feature. And oftentimes if you create a post, you'll see that it shows up in the bottom right hand corner. It says you can boost this post. You can spend $5 and share it for this many number of people in your area. Do something like that. It's a great way, a budget friendly way for you to get your details out there. The other option is actually to run a Facebook ad, and the Facebook ads platform has come a long ways. They have some incredible things, and when you're looking for dollar and cents ways to get your word out on a super budget friendly way, the Facebook ads are fantastic, because you could actually go in and target people in your church who live within a radius of your church, who have certain likes and dislikes, who are interested in certain things. It's a very cool thing. I was able to help one organization who they did childcare, and I was able to say, I only want to target families within a 2-mile radius of the childcare who have parents who both work, who have kids in school age, and we were able to whittle it down so that I was only showing that ad to specific people who actually met the criteria I was looking for. And the cool part then was I wasn't wasting money, and it allowed me to actually spend less on the ad, but get it seen by the people I was interested in. And so you actually can set a budget of as little as $1 a day with Facebook ads. And depending on how specific you are with your targeting, you can see, they give you an estimate of how many people are going to see your ads. So it's a great way when you ask about budget-friendly ways to get your word out there as a small church. How do you get seen by your community? The Facebook ads is a great way to do it. But really, if you can marry the email and social media together, save some time by sharing information back and forth between the two. Remember that you need to be putting together engaging content that people want to read, want to be a part of, and it will make all the difference in the world for you. Now, I have a second question today, and that second question was sent in. It says, how do I help others understand the time that it takes to put together publications and communication items? Quality items take time, so I need more than just a couple days of lead time. And I got to tell you, this was one of the biggest challenges that I faced in the local church. I faced it when I was a worship pastor, and I was the one trying to create the things and do all the planning, and I faced it as a communications director when I was the one trying to create all the communications for everyone and keeping things on task, keeping my life in some sort of order so that I wasn't there every day creating last minute promotions. And what I found is that there was really three things I had to focus on. And I would encourage you to do the same. And the first one that you want to do is you need to start tracking your time. Now, this may seem a little counterintuitive at first, but start tracking what it takes for you to do different types of projects. And the reason that you want to do this is I can guarantee you, at least what I learned in my life, is that it takes you longer to do the things than you think it does. So start thinking through a process. Include the time that you spend in meetings, talking about what the project needs to be, that you spend personally in planning, anytime you spend writing copy or the words that are going to be the text that's going to be written or read by the people receiving the publication. You spend designing, actually doing the graphics. You spend proofing it, following up with the staff and getting information back from them. Anything else that's related. And I say this one thing, don't exaggerate the time, but be specific about it so that you have a record. And this record really, at least initially, is going to mostly be for you. The reason is you just want to know what it's really taking you to do these projects. Because what you'll find, at least what I found, was that that project you said, oh, that's just a 20-minute project. Well, it probably actually took 45 minutes of your time. And that 4-hour promotion that had a postcard and sermon slides and a couple other things, it probably actually took you closer to 6. But you don't know that for certain until you're tracking every bit of your time. So start doing it, and immediately you're going to know where your time is. And what I did was I began to just kind of keep a cheat sheet. Okay, this kind of project takes on average 4 hours. I did this kind of project again for someone, it took 5 hours. I did this project, it only took 2 hours. So I at least have an idea of what I'm up against each and every time. So once you've got a handle on how much time a project's going to take, then you need to begin to educate your staff and the volunteers who are bringing projects to you. Now, this can be a touchy subject, and you really have to just approach this with grace, because the reality is that they don't know all that it takes for you to create a communication. And the reason they don't know is that it's not their responsibility. So you can't get frustrated with them for not knowing. It's our responsibility as the communications creator to let people know. So as requests come in, begin to let them know what the reality of the time necessary is going to be. And if there's not time available, be gracious enough to offer suggestions to them. Okay? Things like, is there something else we can do that in the time available that we can do to promote this event? How could we streamline what you want to do into a way I can get it done for you in the time that I've got available? I began to actually schedule out my projects and show, okay, that's a 4-hour project, so I know I'm going to work on that on Thursday. I'm going to work on this on Friday. And that way, if something came in and someone said, hey, I've got that last minute thing, and you go, hey, I need you to look at my project board. I've got these other things. They've been on the docket for a while now. I've got to get those done. They're things for this weekend also. I can't move everything around. So how can we work creatively to get your project done? And in the future, here's an idea of how we might work better at getting our timeline put together. And when you approach things that way, you're saying no, but you're offering creative options for people, and it really helps to give them a better sense that you aren't trying to just shut them down, but you're trying to work together to find a solution. And I can tell you, the first time that I had to do this in a staff meeting, it was a challenge. It threw me off having to do it because I've always been the people pleaser who wants to provide the solution right now. But it was a Thursday, and I got a 20-hour project request on a Thursday for Sunday. And in light of everything else that needed to be done yet for the weekend, there was no way. And I just had to say, hey, I just need you to know that's a 20-hour project. And I know it's a 20-hour project because we've done things like this 3 times and they always took 20 hours because I had that information that I had been tracking and I was able to show them. So the next thing that I would say is, so you want to track your time. You begin to educate people based on that information you gathered as you were tracking their time. And then the last thing you want to do is, now that you know this and have an idea of what it's going to take you to accomplish, you need to begin to create a project submission process. And the reason you want to do that is you want to give people a forum to get information about their projects to you in a reasonable enough amount of time that you can get them done and they still get them promoted the way they need to be. And oftentimes this is part of the education process as much as anything, because you need to let them know, hey, if we're going to advertise your event for 4 weeks, then we also want to make sure it's created early enough. So we need to think about starting the process earlier. And if you can create a submission process that you can put in writing and say, hey, 6 weeks before an event, I need this information from you. At this point, I need this information from you. At this point, we need to have it finished and proofed and out the door so that people can begin to respond to it. So include things like how far in advance you need that info. How do you want information submitted to you? Email, online form, something like that. Put it in writing so you can give it to people. How far out are you going to promote things in your church? Just begin to make that available to your staff and your volunteers so they understand that you're wanting to work as a team. You aren't trying to shut them down, but you need to accomplish the goal in ways that works best for all of you. So if you can do those 3 things, it will begin to be golden in terms of your ability to help others understand the reality of the time it takes. And I can tell you this, up front, it's going to take a little more time from you to do these things. But once you've got them in place, it will make tremendous difference for you in terms of your productivity and your ability to help staff going forward. Now, again, my name is Ryan Hulk, and each week I'm answering questions as part of my Ask Rad Ideas campaign, coming from viewers like you who have communication questions, issues they're dealing with in their church. I would love to answer questions that you've got, and you can submit them using one of the links below. If you've got a question, a challenge you'd like to face, I would love to help you.